My name is Peter Renton. I've got some feedback going here. Oh, no. As I said, my name is Peter Renton. I'm chairman and co-founder of LendIt Fintech. Pleasure to be here at Finnosummit. We've really enjoyed a long partnership with the Vista team, and really great to be here. So let's maybe just get started by doing quick intros. You maybe give us 30 seconds. Mercedes, why don't you give us a little bit of background, quick intro.
Hi, my name is Mercedes Bent, and I'm a partner at Lightspeed Venture Partners. We're a venture capital firm based in Silicon Valley, and we're investing in early stage, growth stage companies around the world. We have offices in the US, China, India, Southeast Asia, Europe, Middle East, and our newest region is LATAM. We don't have an office there yet, but we have been very excited to be investing in the region. And I invest in fintech, edtech, consumer, all things future of income. And Lightspeed, we've been known for some investments in companies like Snapchat, Honest Company, Stitch Fix, Affirm, Carta, and several others. Excited to speak with you more today.
Okay, Sergio.
My name is Sergio Jimenez. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Flink. Flink is a fintech that is providing investment services to the masses over here in Mexico. Right now, we have 1.6 million users right now, and we're trying to democratize the access on the investment services over here, and hopefully in LATAM really soon.
Okay, well, maybe we can kick it off, Sergio, by just telling us the state of the savings and investment market in Latin America.
Sure. I think right now it's a really interesting time in LATAM. What we have seen is the big firms like Lightspeed, it's trying to enter the market, and it's really interesting to see this dynamic of these basic services that we're seeing in the fintech side, that it's getting the interest of big VCs. I think it's really amazing, that dynamic. It's really helping improve scale and continue improving people's life, because I think it's the most important thing to do over here. So yeah, really excited with the momentum that we're having right now.
Okay, and Mercedes, why don't you give us a little bit of background about your thesis on this market, why you made this investment?
You know, we got excited about the Latin American market a number of years ago. Actually, I remember in 2019, we started looking at the region. And for us, you know, at a really high level, just back up and think, okay, we look at some of the macro numbers and data around the GDP per capita, the population size, the number of unicorns, the number of, you know, and we also think about the government support for startups. And when we looked at all of these, we realized that compared to other markets that we were investing in, LATAM actually was very underinvested from a VC dollars perspective, despite having the same or even higher GDP per capita, more unicorns, you know, even stronger kind of government support in some countries. And so when we saw that, you know, as investors, we always go, okay, there's an arbitrage opportunity. And so we put our thinking caps on and started making teams, and we were just blown away by the quality of the founders. I mean, so many teams just have so much heart, so much passion, so much grit. But on top of that, you know, we're really prepared for fundraisers. And so when we were meeting folks, we were really pleasantly surprised, and that's how we decided to get in. And doesn't hurt also, I'm a little bit tiny part Colombian, so I tried to use that angle as well.
That's great. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the market it's the most exciting market in the world today, just with everything that's going on. So anyway, Sergio, I'd love to sort of let the audience know, like, some details about your offerings. How are you operating today? What are the products that you provide?
Sure. We started Flink in 2018 with the idea of building a digital banking solution to provide this basic current account for the average Mexican. The reality, it's different right now. We start seeing a lot of offering or similar offerings in the market. We saw that no one was getting a lot of traction and people weren't using it really frequently. So what we did was took a step back, interview our user base and some other potential customers in Mexico, and we discovered that the real pains weren't about debit cards or current accounts or payment solutions. There were also different needs around other aspects, like trying to invest their money. They didn't have any kind of solutions. They were trying to build wealth, and the average Mexican didn't have that opportunity. So we decided to build a trading product. We're the first ones in Mexico's history offering fractional shares and commission-free trading. And yeah, it has been a really amazing ride since we launched that product. We launched that product in July of last year. And yeah, it has been growing really fast. And I think the engagement that we're seeing from the users, it's really amazing. And just to add on top of that, I think the reason we are really excited about it is we're really happy that we're providing real value to the customer, and we are seeing that kind of value in the way the user speaks about the company, about the product itself. So yeah, that has been the mission of the company: provide real value, and yeah, we're really excited about the way we're doing it.
So then, what is it, technology-wise, that's really enabling you to be able to do this? Sergio, I'd love to kind of dig into a little bit.
On the tech side, we have a couple of licenses in Mexico, and also we have a partnership in the US that help us make this product works. So I will say that it's a lot of APIs and backend solutions. But yeah, I think it's not something that it's from another world. It's something that it's happening in other countries, not in LATAM, but you can see this kind of products or this offering in Europe, Asia. I think the only thing that we did faster than anyone, it's we took the time to speak with the potential users, with the potential customers, and we understood pretty well that people were demanding this kind of services over here in LATAM and in Mexico.
Right, got it. So then maybe Mercedes, can you sort of give a sense of what you, when you're looking at not just Mexico but the region, what are the technologies that you think are really enabling this transformation that we're seeing?
I think it's a confluence of a bunch of different kind of technologies and trends happening at the same time. On the one hand, you have mobile penetration, and that has reached really high levels. I mean, actually going back quite a few years, mobile penetration in Mexico and broader LATAM is in the 90s percentiles for many countries. When people talk about emerging markets, sometimes they think it's lower. And, you know, there's older mobile phones and then there's smartphones. And actually the smartphone penetration is very, very high. So that's one thing we think about. That obviously is the connection point of how a lot of people are accessing their trading accounts. It's not necessarily all on desktop, which might be, you know, the US is a market where it's a little bit more heavily desktop oriented. So that's one thing that we're seeing. Another thing that we're seeing is actually, you know, the government specifically in Mexico has been working on a lot of fintech laws and a lot of fintech licenses, enabling more startup players to get into the market. And so while it's always slow going and there's always things that they have to figure out, just that initial willingness makes a really big difference in terms of the type of entrepreneurs who even see it being a viable path to, you know, go ahead and start their companies. So I think that's another huge condition that's enabling what's happening. And then third, I really think it's a global phenomenon. When you think about retail investing, you know, this wasn't a thing specific to Mexico or to the US or to the UK. This was in especially over the whole last year. You know, I wrote a blog post in late 2020. I published it in early January about how we're just seeing this ownership mentality and this idea from people all over the world that they want to participate in the equities market. They want to be owners, and they know that the income sources they have, whether it's your job or things, that are not enough to really build the long-term wealth you want. And so I actually think the awareness of how equities and investing can be a big beneficiary for your life is a big change in just the last year that has been sweeping not just the US, but Mexico as well.
Right. And so, Sergio, is that really the motivation behind a lot of your investors? Is that they have that sort of ownership mentality? Is that what they really, obviously they want to invest their money, but do they have that? Is that sort of a motivation for a lot of your investors?
Yeah, I think that's why the traction that we have seen in the product itself, people want to. I think as Mercedes mentioned, we're living in a globalized world, so they understand pretty well what is happening in other countries. So, for example, when we were building the product, there were a lot of people asking why in Mexico we don't have any kind of solution like Robinhood, Stash, Acorns, like in the US, that you can, I don't know, do roundups and you can auto invest, you can do fractional trading. And I think it comes down to this part of ownership and taking charge of their decisions and their money. They're the ones earning that money, and they want to have the tools to manage their money in a more useful way. And I think as a financial service, what you need to do is build those tools in the proper way, and that's the only thing that we have been doing. And yeah, it's amazing to see the way people really feel proud about doing these first steps. Just to give you a really small example that I share with everyone that I speak with. A couple of months ago, a user received a dividend of Disney. This dividend was 2 Mexican pesos. It wasn't too much money, and as a company, we reached out to him directly to understand why he was really excited, because he was sharing that dividend and that screenshot in Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and when we spoke with him, what he told us was, yeah, 2 Mexican pesos, it isn't too much, but I used to have my money in the bank for 4 years and I didn't receive anything. So that kind of mentality, that kind of mindset, I think it's amazing the way you can see the people understanding better dynamics to manage their money.
Right. But then what about regulators? I mean, how are you engaging with them? Have they blessed this new system? Are there certain things they're worried about? I mean, what are your conversations like with regulators?
I think it comes to an end of building something that resonates with the user. The regulator, it's open, but I think the most important thing for them is you need to take care of the user. By the end of the day, as a financial service, what you're building and what you're offering is security. People need to feel that their money will be taken care. It will be secure in the app and in the company. So it comes down to that. The regulator needs to know that there's certainty around the company, the business, the investors, the way you're building the product. You're building something that wants to help users and not take advantage of them. So I think it comes to that part. And yeah, it's a learning process for everyone. But I think the regulator, it's open to see different ways to receive different solutions that will help the users over here.
Got it. So maybe Mercedes, I'd love to turn to you to get a sense of sort of the broader market where we're starting to see some consolidation happening in Latin American fintech. And do you think this is going to continue? And what about sort of the brokerage market or the sort of the investing market that Sergio's team that Flink is really focused on? Is that going to be part of this trend, do you think, or is there something different going on there?
I think that retail investing trend and the broader trend around fintech, consumer fintech products is at its early innings, and it's only going to continue for a really long time. I think when you think about, the last generation of investment products, especially in the US, that were big, many of them were started 20, 30 years ago. They were started almost before, the internet in some ways. And we're now entering an era of Web3, as people are calling it, or the decentralized internet, where users are much more aware that there's many more ways for them to earn income beyond just their centralized, job. And so I think that all the trends that support kind of retail investing as a consumer trend are still going to be there for the long term. And that's what we always pay attention to. We think that a lot of people are using this not just from the perspective of ownership economy and earning money, but also from the perspective of, it's a new type of experience. People are choosing experiences over goods these days, and participating in the global economy, being able to express yourself with a bet and with making a kind of choice about where you think the world is going is actually an experience, a cultural phenomenon that people want to be part of. And so, those are age-old trends. I don't think that's going anywhere. And increasingly, platforms are doing a better job of making people feel like members, making them feel like they're part of a community. And in case of Flink, they do an amazing job at helping their users learn and come up to speed with, okay, I have this desire. So how do I now get the skills to actually be able to do this in an even stronger way? And I think that is the key. The platforms that have a lot of education, have a lot of community resources, are going to be the stickiest ones long term.
Right. And as you're talking there, I'm sort of struck by a lot of the things you're talking about there is what Robinhood in the US talk about, and like making investing an experience and making it really, helping people, holding their hand, because this is a lot of times it's their first time investing. So, Sergio, I would love to kind of get your thoughts on, is Robinhood a company that you watch really closely? How do you think about them? Or are there other companies internationally that you think are doing interesting work that you follow closely?
Yeah, I think Robinhood has to be a company that everyone looks out, because they were the ones leading that path. But something that I say every time that someone tries to compare Flink with Robinhood, it's the dynamic of the market. It's kind of different. The sophistication of the potential users that we're trying to acquire, it's quite different. So I think what we're trying to do over here, and it's the difference between Flink and Robinhood, we're not trying to take a percentage of our share of a market that it already exists. Over here, what we're trying to do is build a new market. In Mexico, we didn't have that kind of penetration. When we launched the product on July of last year, we used to have less than 500,000 investment accounts in the whole country. So what we're trying to do is build a new market. And because of that, we're trying to be really responsible with the way we're providing access. That's why the finance education is really important for us. People need to understand how to use these tools in a proper way, because we're really on a warning sign. We understand pretty well that if the user has a really bad experience in our platform, we're pretty sure that they will not invest in the future again. So we want to take care of that, and we want to be a really thoughtful partner with them.
Yeah, got it. Okay, well, we are running out of time, and since Jimenez is live, we want to give the audience the opportunity to ask some questions. I've got several more questions I could ask, but let's hand it over to Elena, the host of Finnosummit Connect, to join us and to share any feedback from the public. Okay, maybe we can just go with one more question, because it looks like it's not quite ready yet. So maybe Mercedes, why don't we I'd love to get your perspective here on, are we starting to see, like, there's blends of neobanks serving consumers and businesses. What are your thoughts on sort of that trend today?
I think that neobanks are going to continue to be a really big player in Mexico. And we're seeing a ton of neobanks on the consumer side and the B2B side as well. I think that people are realizing, like, neobanks really just mean there's a bank that's coming online in a faster way with more tech at the heart. They're digital first versus offline first. They're not building themselves thinking about branches or in-person, counters where people come up. And so I think for me, neobanks are going to be what we just call banks in the future. It's going to be how users think of interacting with their providers. And increasingly, users just have expectations of low fees, no fees, like easy fractional access to different products, a proliferation of products all within the same app, kind of this super app experience for a bank. And that's just, if you think about 50 years ago, that's not at all how we thought about banks. So I think there's a really different expectation for banks long term, and that's just going to continue.
Okay, so I think we might be ready for audience questions now. I'd like to hand it over to Helena, and let's see if we have any audience questions coming in.
Yes. Thanks, Peter, and of course, thanks, Mercedes and Sergio. The audience has 2 questions for both of you. First, Macarena Banus asks, what's your opinion about IPOs in LATAM? Although rising in Brazil, numbers are still low across the region, and startups generally look abroad when thinking on going public, especially in the US. How can we retain this talent and value within the region?
I think that one of the things we're seeing is increasingly, if the government is supporting startups to build really interesting businesses locally, and when you start to see people have enough liquidity in the local exchanges, then that's when there's going to be a lot of interest of companies going public locally, or at least maybe listing in both, in 2 different exchanges, maybe in 2 different countries. I think that liquidity is really the question. And, when these companies are IPOing, a lot of the successes in LATAM are going for tens of billions of dollars. You need tons, and you need a really, really liquid market. And as Sergio described, there's the retail inside is early, the institutional side is early as well. So when the company has to think about that book building experience, or when you take a company public, like initiating the demand, you just want to make sure there's enough buyers and sellers on both sides of the market. So I think companies like Flink are actually paving the way for there to be enough liquidity to have there be more IPOs happening locally.
Sergio?
I think Mercedes resumed everything pretty well. I think it's a matter of different things that we need to have in order to have different IPO in LATAM and in Mexico especially. And I think it comes down to liquidity part and provide a frictionless way to do an IPO. I think right now in Mexico, some of the companies are trying to outlist from the Mexican stock exchange. So I think we need to change that dynamic in order to make it really attractive for the companies to come over here.
One is from Jorge Barrios Martinez, and he asks, what are your thoughts on payment for order flow versus traditional brokerage model? Do you think there will be regulatory scrutiny both in US and Mexico?
Do you want me to go first, Mercedes? Okay.
Go for it.
First, in Mexico, you don't have that business model. The payment per order flow doesn't exist in Mexico. So that kind of business model apply to any brokerage in Mexico. And in the US, I don't know. I think it comes down to the way these companies want to monetize. I think, and the way we are trying to build our own company, we try to put the users first. So I don't know, we don't want to take advantage of the way you can execute any kind of order to the user. So I don't know if it will have or we will have a regulation for that, but I think it comes down to building a different business model. You have Robinhood doing this payment for order flow, but for example, you have other companies like Public or any other company that it's not getting revenue over there. So there are different ways to monetize these kind of businesses.
Thanks, Mercedes.
Yeah, I think exactly what Sergio said. I mean, I don't know what in the U.S. the SEC is thinking, or what is going to be the future of that business model. But we are seeing a lot of neo brokers, experiment with new different types of business models, subscription. Thinking through how are they earning income on different products and different fees. The old model of, in some ways, people are going back to the old model of just taking a fee on the transaction as well, which, is kind of what Robinhood took down, and now users have expectations around lower, no fees. But at the same time, it was kind of transparent and it was straightforward. So I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the subscription and the tipping business models. I do think consumers' appetite and understanding for paying directly for things that see value out of is a lot stronger. So that's the top two business models I'm watching in the space.
Well, thank you, Peter, Renton, y también Mercedes, Bent y Sergio Jiménez. Es un gusto realmente que nos hayan acompañado en este evento. Grandes insights para la audiencia, y sin duda ahí está el llamado para que la banca cada vez recorra un camino mucho más inteligente, más rápido, para lograr que la inclusión financiera sea una realidad en nuestra región para todas y para todos, y por lo tanto la democratización de la banca también. Muchísimas gracias. Gracias por haber estado con nosotros. Un abrazo desde México.
Muchas gracias.